Hello guys, welcome to Tech with Amrut. So in previous lecture we have discussed about a promise, and also we have discussed how what will happen if promise is accepted or rejected. Based on that, what we will be executing, whether we are executing then or we are executing a catch block. So this we have already discussed. Like if we are having this promise and we have a function inside that we are calling it resolve or reject. So if it is rejected, then catch and finally will execute, and if it is resolved, then we are executing the then and finally, as the finally will be executed even though the case is resolved or promise is resolved or rejected. In the any of the case, finally will get executed, and if the promise is resolved, then we are executing then, and if promise is rejected, catch. Okay, so this we have discussed, and also we have just initiated with a async await. So that async await, we have seen two examples. So the better way and this one way, we have seen the two ways. So if I can just brief about that one, so we have this then function which is getting called, and it is returning the users. Again we have a one more then function. Okay, so this we are having a two then function, and in this case both then cases will get executed. Okay, and when we have this async, we are writing, so any function in Playwright, so that we are considering it as async function. And if we are having any promises, so if you have this promise, then this will be considered as a await as, and then we are followed with that promise function. So if you are not having that promise, then it will be considered as a normal one. And we have seen the better approach also. So in this better approach, basically, like we have took the same example which we have took in a promise while explaining the promise. So we have considered the open browser, go to login and enter credential and click on login. So earlier what we used to do, then and catch, like this we are using earlier. So multiple thens are we are using. So like if we are executing this open browser, then it will execute the go to login. Like that it is executing one by one, open browser, then go to login, and after that we are calling one more function and then returning the enter credential, click login. Like this we are executing step by step, and we are using multiple then. So in case of this await, async and await, so this will be more readable, and also like whatever the function we are writing, right? So for that, if it has some promise to do, then we are calling it with along with await. So by using await, basically what it will happen, it will wait for that open browser to execute, and then it will go to login, and then after that it will execute the enter credential. So it will wait for that particular function to execute, then it will go to the next one if we are waiting it for all the functions. So async, in our whatever the function, if it is async, then whatever the promises we are making, so these all are promises only. So these all are promises. For that we are using the await. Okay, simple guys, like whatever function, like if I can show you the Playwright example here. So this is a Playwright example, guys. So test is a function, like whatever the test we want to execute, and asynchronously we are waiting. This leave it about this page, and async, this is a function, and that we are executing, and these are the promises. Page dot go to and expect dot to have title. So these are all the promises. Like that we are maintaining the promises here. Okay, and that we are waiting with the await keyword. And we have seen this like two examples we have seen. And async await, async and await we have, and async is a function and await is a function, callback function. So in Playwright, every function is considered as a async, and when we mention the function is async, that means that function do some promises. So that promise can be like in progress or resolved or rejected. So we are also learning the Playwright now, so we are making some promise, like we are we are completing this course, or we are rejecting it, or it is in progress. Currently we are doing it as in progress. Okay, so that is how it is promises are made. And this is a function, async function, and it is returning pass. And when we are calling this function, then we are using then function, and then we are printing that result. Okay, so everything will be under async now because of we are in Playwright. So because Playwright believe the everything will be resolved as everything will be promise. And async function we are making it as run test and promise.resolve. So we can do the promises like how we have done earlier also. So earlier we have seen like we can make a promises like this. So we are writing some promise like new promise, and inside that we are writing a function resolve or reject. Like this we are maintaining. So now we can also write the promises like await promise directly. We can do the resolve instead of new promise and function, and inside that function if we are writing that one whole thing, and whether it is resolved or rejected, instead of that we can use it like this also. Okay, so this is another way of making a promise resolve or reject. So these are result 1 and result 2 we have maintained. And if any function is defined with async, we believe default it has a set of promises. So any of the function we are making it as async, right? So that we are believing like it contains some set of functions which are we are making it as like await to make it as synchronous. So earlier like whatever the function it was executing, so those are getting executed asynchronously. So if you want to execute the like promises synchronously one by one or sequentially, then we call them using the await function. Okay, so because of that it will execute one by one, promise 1, then promise 2, promise 3, and then promise 4, like that it will execute so on. So this is why we have use the we will use the await function. Okay, so if you want to execute this one, then we need to make it as run test, and if you execute this one you will see this login test and this whatever the dashboard test passed. So these you will see. So now we have seen that as that Playwright example also. So how we are writing that one. So whatever the this is a TypeScript I have took. So in order to show that await when we are writing, so it should contain the promises. Then we are writing it with the await keyword. And if any page dot locators, so this is not a promise. If you can hover on this, you can see that this is a locator. Anything apart from the promises we are not writing the await. So if it is a promise, that whatever the promise we are making, that will be having the keyword called as await. Okay, this is a asynchronous callback, and that we are maintaining the promises, all the promises with the await. And you can also create a function like this, separate function you can create async function abc and return abc, and that you can use it as with a await. So this is also possible. So you can see that this is a promise what we are making, abc is a promise string, so that we are maintaining with a await. Okay, and if you are calling this one, it will get executed. And we will see one more example where error handling with a try and catch. So this we have seen earlier, like we have seen that catch and finally. So even with try and catch also you can use it while like if you want to the promise to be executed, then you can use the try, and if that promise need to be handled, then you can use the catch and finally. And with async and await you can use the try and catch exactly with a regular JavaScript. Okay, like how we are maintaining in a regular JavaScript code when we are writing, so we can write a try and catch, right? So you can use the try and catch for the promise also. And like this you have this promise.reject. So now what do you think, guys? So if this is a promise.reject, which should get executed, whether try should get executed or catch should get executed? So catch should get executed because we are maintaining promise.reject. So when we'll do the reject, okay, when we'll do the reject, then error is this one, error of 503 service unavailable. So this is getting catched, and then finally we'll execute irrespective of whether the promise is resolved or rejected. Okay, so this also we have seen. And we will see the sequential execution in case of by using the await. So when we are writing the await, so with that one by one it will get executed. So we can see this when step 2 is dependent on step 1, step 1's result. So whatever the step R1 is R2 is dependent on the R1 results, so then we can run this by using await, and that will get executed one by one. Okay, so this is our API call, whatever we are making, and we are making some promise here, resolve, and set of time we are maintaining with a set of time of 2000, and resolve, in case of resolve we are maintaining a name and 200 okay, so that we are promising. And now if I try to execute this one, so this will, so we are making some promises here also, like whatever the promises we have, so that promise will be having the keyword await. And if I run this one now, so with 10 second of gap, so this is getting executed. With 1 second of gap it is getting executed, and it done for the within 3000 milliseconds, means 3 seconds. Within 3 seconds it executed all the code. Okay, and here you also seen that it is executing one by one, starting with this one. Okay, starting of test, and then it executed this one, login, and then dashboard, and like that. What happens if I am not using this await? What if I'm not using the await? And now if I try to execute this one, so it is telling promise, it is pending. So because if you are not using the await for the promises, then it won't execute. It basically won't execute, it will directly return that promise is pending. So if you are using the await in front of that one, then only it will get executed. So whenever, it is simple guys, like if you have the any promises and that is written inside the async function, then you should use the await, then it will get executed properly. Okay, so now if I am running, so it will execute one by one. So here it is waiting. There when we are not using the await, then there it is not waiting for a single second, it executed all the three at a time. Okay, that is the sequential execution. And if you want a parallel execution, then you can use the await Promise.all. So await Promise.all if you are making that one, and then it will execute parallelly it will execute. Okay, so this is a API call, similar way I have written. So this is a API call what we are making, and instead of that API call, how we have written here in sequential flow, right? Await API call, one by one we have written, and that we are storing in a R1, R2, R3, and that we are printing each and every time. So in parallel execution, what it will happen? So we are using the Promise.all and await Promise.all we are maintaining, and we are calling the APIs whatever it is there. So in the array, we are calling. So when we will call that one, at a time it will check the all the API, and if it is resolved, then only it will print. Okay, we need to call this function. We have not called the function. We need to call the function, then only it will get executed. So it will execute all at a time. So you can see that 1 second it has took here to execute all these three. So it is a parallel execution because we have used the Promise.all and await, and then we are printing this whole thing. So then all the function, all the promises got executed at one shot. So we can see the API flaky cases also. This is a real-time example guys. So flaky test, 100 test case we have, and 3 are failed in that, and I wanted to return them 3 and return all the 3, and these are flaky, and it sometime passes and sometime it will fail, and 3 I want to rerun, and in that 3 failed. So first attempt F1 and F2 got passed, and 2 test cases are passed, 1 failed. So how many flaky we have? We have 2 flaky because 2 are like running, and sometime it is passing and sometime it is failing, but this one is always, one test case is always failing, so that is not a flaky. 2 test cases which got passed after rerunning, those are the flaky. And now you can see that attempt count I have took as 0, and function I consider as a flaky API, and attempt count I am making it as ++. Each when it is entering, that time it will get increased, and if attempt count is less than 3 or equal to 3, less than 3 or equal to 3, what it should happen? It should do the resolve here basically. it should do the resolve, and here it should do the reject. Okay, because when attempt count is less than or equal to 3, the promise should resolve, and attempt count is less than or equal more than 3, then it should promise should get rejected. So for that I have written a retry test with a max retry, and I have used a for loop I is equal to 0 and I should be max retry and I plus plus. So let result await API flaky API. So this is the function which I have. So same thing how we have written here also, right? In example case, so we can also write a function outside, and that we can use inside the async function. So same thing I have also done here. So I have written the function outside, and that function I am using it here with a await, because it is a promise what we are writing inside that flaky API. That function is making itself as a multiple promises, so that we are surrounded with we are using a async function, and that we are whatever the flaky API function we have, that we are maintaining with the await function. And when it will try, so first it will try for so many times, like how many times it get executed, that many times it will try, and it will try to resolve it. When it will got rejected, so it will execute the catch one. Okay, so this you just understand this one, and we are calling it retry test, that is we are giving the max retry as 5. So if I execute now this one, so you can see that, okay, so first it passed for 3 times whatever it is returning, so it returned the 3 times that pass promise I will exit also, and then it is maintaining the attempt count as 1, and it is failed. So here I need to make it as success, and here it will be failed. So you can see that first 3 times it executed this one, and other 2 times it executed the catch block, because that whatever the rejection it has happened, so it executed the catch block. So this is how that I want to explain that we can create a separate function. So if you are maintaining that function async, then you can write the await with the followed by the promises of that function, okay, that you can maintain. And these are the IQ questions, guys. So let me just try to execute one by one. So what do you think, guys? So this is a function what we have, say hello, and that is returning the hello QA. So what will be the output in this case? This is simple, okay. So this will be a hello QA will get executed. Why it is maintaining status? Okay, it didn't got saved, I guess. Okay, hello QA, it will get executed, and then we have this statement. We have this another function. So this is another function. So in this one, what we are doing, we are calling the function, we are creating a async function. So in that we are maintaining with the promise resolve 200. So resolve means it should execute this one, console.log, and status will get printed. Status code will be status which is 200. So that will get printed. So if I execute this one now, status code 200. Okay. So this is also simple one. So third one will be this one. What will be the output of this third one? Async function we are using. Test flow is our function name, and it has 3 steps: step 1, step 2, step 3, and each are all the 3 promises whatever it is making, all are resolved. So in that case, all the cases will be get printed. Okay, open browser, clicked login, and then verified dashboard. If I save this one, all the 3 will get executed. This is also simple. This is another one. We have a risky test which is surrounded with a try and catch, and inside that try we have a promise which is rejected. So in case of reject, catch will get executed, and test failed, and whatever the error we have, element not found, that will get thrown. Test failed, element not found. Okay, so this is also simple. Now we have this flaky with API test with resolve, and also we have a catch and finally block. So what will happen in this case? Let response will be resolved, then status and body we have. So in this case it is easy, like status and body will get printed. Status will be 200 and body will be created, and finally will also get executed irrespective of whether the promise is passed, resolved or not rejected. Okay, so this is also same thing. And we have a last example, console log a we have, and this is the best example, guys. This, if you are understanding this one, right, so you will understand that why we are using await here, await, why we are using, right? So that will, you will get understood by this example. Basically, console.log we have, and a we are calling async function test. Okay, first we are printing it a, and then b. Here we are maintaining it as await. So in case of await, so it will wait for that resolve to get executed. Okay, so it will basically wait to this, a wait to execute this promise, whatever it is making a promise resolve. So it will wait to execute this one. Until that, if we have any other things, it will execute that one, and it will come to the console.log.c. so that is why we are maintaining it as asynchronous. So if I print this one now, so you can see a, b, d and c, because a will execute as it is, b will also execute, but here it is maintaining the await. So if you are not maintaining await, then it will execute as it is, then it will give the result as a, b, c, d. So you will see the difference here. Earlier when we are using a await, then it was waiting for this promise to get execute resolve, and then it is going to the console.log c. But when we are not using the await, it is executing a console.log c, and then it is going to the d. So this is the difference, guys. I guess this is a little bit tricky, guys, I understand, but try to understand the whole thing, like whatever the we have discussed about this promise, and try to solve the examples on this Promise.all, promise API, whatever the promise ke liye we have, right? Reset and settle, race, settle all, and all we have, and these all you just try to practice these all the things, and you will, once you will get a better understanding on this one, so we will be able to easily write the Playwright scripts. So this is basically all about the promises and whatever the await, async and await, on that only we are having this Playwright. So it will be easy, guys. So try to solve the as much as examples, and as much as like problems you can solve on this promise and all. So this will help you. Mainly we are using the async and await in a Playwright. Okay, so we will see the most other examples, and we will see the any other like we will now jump onto the TypeScript, and there we will see the OOPS concept in that, and post that we will have the Playwright next session onwards. So one more concept is there, that is TypeScript, and that OOPS concept in that, and after that we will jump onto the Playwright concept. Catch up in the next session. So till there, see you guys and keep learning.